pray as we conduct business this morning that we do it in an orderly fashion, one that would bring honor to you. I want to pray for our teachers, our students, and the entire staff and faculty of Madison County Schools. Pray you watch over them, keep them safe. I want to just thank you for letting us live in this district, and pray all we do give you honor and glory. For Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Good morning. The Madison County Board of Education work session, special session, along with our first public budget hearing is now in session. Mr. Kubik?
Yes, sir. So starting off this morning, we've got a presentation. Ms. Luther is here with Mazda Toyota. And so, ma'am, we'll let you want to speak about anything, please?
Sure.
Right up there.
Absolutely. So, thank you so much for inviting us here today. Michelle and I have worked closely together now. She came and presented to our grant committee this spring. And what she presented was really something that is so important to us as a company, which is workforce development, but not just the technical skills, which y'all also do really, really well, as we know here at your Career Tech, but the soft skills. What we've found so often is that the generation that's coming into the workforce, they don't know the things that we all take for granted. How to call off when you're sick without, creating a bigger issue. How to lead other people, how to manage other people. I think there is a little bit of a gap there. And really, we love that y'all are creating these programs that help to bridge that gap so that, we all know that it's 90% how you present yourself, how you work with others, how you are able to, kind of navigate the world, and 10% the other skills and, and special, talents that you bring to the job. And so having a program that really focuses on preparing the workforce in that way, it is so important to us. We see the value in it, and we're so happy to be able to provide a $5,000 grant to support that program at Madison County Schools.
All right.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Well, let's go. If you don't mind, we'll get a photograph.
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
You're used to being on the.
Yeah, I'm used to being over there.
All right, our next informational item is Dr. Minsky, Mr. Cusort, the Huntsville Utilities Easement Adjust.
Good Friday morning, board members. Huntsville Utilities has asked for an easement change at Moore's Mill. Okay, there we go. So back in February of 2023, I brought this to the board and we approved a easement for their underground utilities to go on the north side of our property there. So in the blue, where it's just dirt right now, is a new substation. Huntsville Utilities electric substation has been built there, and they were going to go to the north side of our property underground. With our dry retention pond and some other issues, they've asked us to reconsider, and they want to do the yellow line coming across the back of our property, going south, and then back out to Walker Lane on our property line there, and it will all be underground. So I wanted to bring this. We always bring easement questions back to the board for conversation, and then I'll bring it for our next board member or board presentation for approval. But this is what they're asking for now. It will all be underground. I see no issues in it from the construction side or any future development, that if we need to use additional property there for growth, I don't see that it will hinder us in the future. But I did want to bring it in front of you today, see if there's any questions that you might have.
Where is it currently? I mean, it comes out right there on Walker? Not yet.
They have nothing right now. This is the substation, so what we had originally approved would be underground. This is our property line, right, so it would have been right up there, it's 10 foot.
And that was approved in 2023?
Yeah, we approved this in February of 2023, but now they've completed the substation, and they're ready to try to get the power back out to Walker Lane. So this route here is better for them. This is the primary issue, is this dry retention pond that we have there for our stormwater runoff.
Only issue I see is with the car rider line. I mean, during construction.
It'll be bored, there'll be no.
Over all that, okay.
Yes, sir, yeah, there'll be no issues as far as construction or impact to the daily school. We'll be sure of that.
Okay.
Yes. That's a good question, though. Any other questions I may can answer on that?
Okay, other questions? All right.
Okay,
Thanks, Joseph. We'll bring this back for next Thursday night.
sounds great. Have a good Friday.
All right, next on our informational items is Ms. Carrie Bass and Ms. Virginia Stowe with our elementary data presentation.
Did you just call her Virginia Stowe?
I did.
He did.
No, it was just, I looked over there and it just came out. That's Virginia Henshaw.
Thank you.
Formerly.
Hey, everybody. So we're going to go through the elementary data for you. We're very excited to share that with you. And also going to go over with you, maybe, going to go over with you update from standards-based reporting. I had told you the next time that we came to update you, I would have this long list of things, and I don't have that today. But Mr. Byrd asked me if I would go ahead and update you guys on what we worked on last time. So just to review with you, and first of all, thank you to Mr. West Jones and Mr. Byrd for coming to our meeting a couple of weeks ago. So the things that we did at our last meeting were that we continued to discuss the reporting scale, the grading scale. How are we going to communicate with our parents what our students can do and what they know? We started working on a teacher professional development plan. What does that look like? What do our teachers need? How are we going to make sure that they will be successful in implementing this? We also began looking at academic behaviors to be included in the reporting, because we are separating the academic behaviors from the content knowledge. So we started looking at that, and we had a team that worked on developing that. I've met with IT for them to start fleshing out what a report card might look like if this is approved, so that I can show that to you. This is what would be going home to parents. And so they are working on that. We are currently, the task force has not worked on this yet, but Bonnie Richburg and Dr. Curry and I have started doing some research and developing a transition plan from standards-based reporting to traditional grading. And we're going to work on that with the task force next week. So I'll have more information on that when I come back. Our next meeting is September 10th. We have asked all schools to make sure they have a representative there for the next meeting. All schools had someone originally, but some people have moved and some people have retired and some people just can't serve anymore. So we have asked to make sure that every school is represented next week as we move forward. Hopefully everyone will be there, and we will continue our work.
Ms. Henshaw, thank you so much for inviting me to these meetings.
Oh, sure.
And for my colleagues on the board, the reason why I asked for her to give updates weekly, or when we have these meetings, is so that if you have a question on what's going on, we can address this early in the process. That way, when we start talking about this in the spring, we're looking at a fuller, more developed product than one size fits all and something being missed. I've enjoyed the meetings, and regrettably, I won't be able to make it.
Sure.
Make it on Wednesday because I have a sinus surgery, and I look forward to someone else going to that meeting if you can.
So is our plans, once we get this, complete package, is there a plan and we approve it, is there a plan to roll it out to our shareholders so that,
Yes.
and I do realize that we have meetings and we have very few attend, but at least we have the
Yes.
opportunity to roll it out to them.
Yeah, oh, yes, yes. The next big step will be that we need for you guys to either approve or disapprove of moving forward to have a policy change for grading. And then once we know that you either in support or not in support, then we'll be able to like do all the fine details of everything. But our intention is to learn from all of the mistakes that people have made before us so that we don't make those mistakes and that our constituents are the most knowledgeable about all the things and that our teachers are ready to do it, that we are strong moving forward. Because the purpose in all of this is not about us, it's about helping our parents understand where their students are as learners and helping our students understand where they are as learners. Okay? All right. So, just a review of where our students are. In 2020-21, in the pink, you can see this is the grade that students were in when we had the COVID year. It felt like a COVID 10 years, but the COVID year, okay? The orange going across is where the students were when they took the ACAP test. So our students who were in kindergarten were in 4th grade when they took the assessment. The yellow is where those students are now, just to kind of give you a historical reference for that. Another reminder, we went over this last year, but just to help you remember, we have M-Class and iReady Reading that we use as universal screeners 3 times a year to help us with instructional decisions and to see where our students are in the areas of reading and math. K3 uses M-Class for reading and iReady for math, and 4-8 uses iReady Reading and iReady Math. The ACAP summative is the summative assessment that the state gives that we're going to dig into with you today so you can see where our students scored on the ACAP summative in the spring of 2025. Also know that there are some slides that are hidden that give you individual school data. We are not going to go through individual school data today, but you can go back through the slide deck and you can see where your schools are. And any questions that you guys have about where your schools are or any of that, you can reach out to one of us and we would love to go through that with you.
And it's in your printed presentation, just won't
Won't be
be on.
on the screen. Okay. All right.
Kathy, can you add it to their assembly folder? Is it already in the folder? This presentation. It's in the Google board folder, but it's not in the assembly.
Okay. So you do have individual school data. We're just not going to highlight that today. We're going to look at whole system data. So the first thing I want to remind you of, and it's something that we all have to wrap our minds around, when we're talking about ACAP data, especially when we're looking at the reading subtest. For the reading subtest, we are looking at sufficiency. When we are looking at the whole battery of the assessment, we are looking at proficiency. So proficiency measures the student's performance on the entire ELA assessment, all of the components, and that's the 4 performance levels. Sufficiency is what we look at on the reading subtest, and that is showing that the student is working at an appropriate level for grade level work on the reading portion of the assessment, okay? And it's either you're sufficient or you're not. Those are the only 2 scores. So proficiency refers to how well students perform on the whole battery of assessment, And sufficiency refers to the grade level work on the reading portion, whether they're high enough to be considered at or above grade level. And they have to show a pathway to promotion of sufficiency to move to the next grade level. Okay, like all things, we have a moving target. Last year, when I came and presented to you, our cut score was 455. This year, in 24-25, the cut score was moved to 463. The cut score will remain 463 for this school year, and it will increase to 471 the next year. And then it should stay at 471. But you can see here, with a difference in the cut score, our students still performed at about the same as they did before. 94% of students were promoted based on ACAP in the spring of 24, and this year 93 were promoted based on the spring ACAP. We had a higher percentage of students promoted based on ACAP supplemental this year, okay? And then you can see the retention is about the same, okay? So that's our cut score for this year. Our ACAP proficiency data, if you look here for ACAP proficiency data, our Madison County Schools average on ACAP ELA, you can see second, third, and we included 7th and 8th grade because it's the ACAP test and all of those students take ACAP. Even though it's your elementary presentation, you still have all of it. So you can see here where we have scored. The red or the orange is the state average, and then the green is the difference between where we are in Alabama and where we are in Madison County. Here we have our math comparison. The blue is Madison County, the red is the state average, and the green is the difference. And then here we have it by grade. You can see in second grade where our second graders scored on ELA and where they scored on math. And the same for the other grades. And the green on this one is science. You take science in the 4th grade, 6th grade, and 8th grade. And you can see here our 3-year ACAP proficiency. Our students improved in all 3 areas. Our ELA went up to 70%. Our math has rebounded back up and is at 44%. And our science is at 46%, and this includes all students tested from 2nd through 8th grades. Our growth data by grade, so growth data is measured in quartiles, and to get a 3, you have to grow as much or more as someone that started at the same place you did in the year before. And then to get a 4, you have to score a certain percentage more than those students that started at the same place that you did the year before. And if you would like for me to send you the technical guide with all of those things and how it's broken down, I will send it to you so you can read it. But that is the gist of it. And so you can see that our students did very well meeting their growth goals across the board for reading and for math. And growth is not measured in science because they don't take it back-to-back years. So that's not measured. And so here you can see how our students did meeting their growth goals in 23, 24, and 25. And our students had higher growth this year than they have the last 2 years. We're very proud of that. Oh, that's Carrie. All right, any questions for me before I hand it over to Ms. Bass?
Did our math proficiency scores, did they change dramatically?
Well, let's go back and see.
Not the growth.
So here's our comparison. So from growth, right here. So we went up 3% from last year and 1% from the year before on proficiency.
Is that K through,
That is second through eighth grades.
grade?
I can send you a breakdown of growth from grade to grade for the whole system.
Please.
Okay, I will get that together.
Because according to AL.com, our scores at the middle school level remain fairly constant.
Yes, so I can send you that information for 2 through 6 so that you can see it as a broken down. I'll get that to you guys by early next week.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. I'll let you click.
So I wanted to point out something I was looking at when looking at this data. We have a platform that comes from the state that's called AIM. And when you look in there, you can see a capture of all the demographic data for the district. It's not in your printout. I'm sorry, I added this late. It'll be in the Google slide. But on the left-hand side, you can see where we are currently. Data, like this is the number of students, this is the needs of the students, the percentages of those needs. And then on the right-hand side, you can see where we were in 1920 school year. A couple of things I just want to point out is we've gained more than 1,000 students. But within that more than 1,000 students, if you'll look at this year, we have almost 700 EL students. I think the number this morning was 686. In 2019, we had 338. The same for some of our other demographics. Poverty in 1920 was at 37%. And today we're sitting at almost 46%. So not only has the district grown, but the demographics of the district are changing. I also want to point out for our special education students, in 2019 we had about 2,400, 2,396. This morning we have 2,700 students with exceptional needs. This does put more of a demand on our teachers. It does put more of a demand on the system as far as our needs for staffing, for funding, and to meet the needs of all of the students. Another thing that I thought was kind of interesting is in 2019 we had no migrant students, and we had about 75 immigrant students. This morning we have 4 migrant students. That means that they moved during the school year for farming, industry, other jobs. And then we have 157 immigrant students, and in order to be an immigrant student, you need to be in your first 2 years of school in the United States. And so I just want to show you that along with the data, we're changing and we're still improving in our outcomes. And I have worked in districts before that have had large spread change over short periods of time, and that's not always the case, that you're still seeing really good proficiency, really good growth. So there's a lot for us to be proud of. I'm very proud of the work that our teachers are doing. I'm super proud of the work that my team is doing, our principals in our schools, because along with all of this change comes more demand on the teachers and on the schools. And as a district, we've got to stay ahead of it because this is going to continue to happen. Madison County will continue to grow. And as we grow, things will change.
Ms. Bass,
So,
before you,
yes.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Is that data available like by our districts as well?
Yeah, I can pull it for you by your school. Yeah, absolutely. And I can send it to you in a screen capture like this. I can't give you access to this platform. But yeah, I can take snapshots like this. Do you want a comparison of your district 2019 to now?
Yeah, that'd be good. Yes, ma'am,
Okay,
if you
because
don't
that's
mind.
as far back as I can go in the platform. But yeah, and it'll show you exactly what you've got in your schools. And I'll do it by school. I can't do it by feeder pattern. But Brian could help me and we could get it into a spreadsheet to do that. He's much better at that than me. So, but yeah, we can do that. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I want to point out on all of the data that Ginger just shared with you is when the state report card comes out, the reporting categories are going to be proficiency on ACAP, growth on ACAP, and then you're going to have CCR, graduation rate, and then ACT proficiency and growth. And then we also have a category that is solely based on how our English learners perform. And that's 5 points on the report card. So it's kind of a make or break for where we come out on outcomes largely on the state report card. So this I'm extraordinarily proud of because you saw the growth that we have had. We've doubled the number of students who are English learners in our district. And so in 23-24, when they tested in spring of 24, 46% of the students met their growth target. Last spring, when they tested 2025 on the access exam, and that tests how proficient they are on learning English language. It's a test only administered to students who have English language learner identification. We had a 12% improvement in the student growth rate, and then the number of students who exited the program, and I want to say this too, because I contribute a lot of this to the leadership that Jessica Geary-Cantrell had as the EL coordinator for us. When I started as the federal programs director, which was maybe 8 years ago, there were 4 students who exited the program. Most years there was 1 or 2. Last year we exited 16 students, and we are going to predict that we're going to get 4.7 out of the 5 points for our ALSDE report card in that category. That's a game changer for how our district looks on the state report card, because that whole 5 points comes from this one small population of students. So we have a lot to be proud of there. A lot of it I contribute to the generosity of the board and the foresight for us to continue to add teacher support to our schools. I know that probably 2 or 3 years ago, that was one of the biggest concerns that our schools had, is that they didn't have enough support. They weren't equipped on how to support those English learners in their classrooms. We have now enough staff providing direct services to these students that all of our high schools have a full-time position, and most of our middle schools have a full-time position, and all of our larger schools have full-time, and some of our smaller schools, they're only split between 2. When I started 8 years ago, we had 4 teachers, and they were serving all of our school campuses. So we've done a tremendous job of making sure that we stayed ahead of that growth. And because of that, the outcomes, I think, have been significant. And I'm just so proud of the work that those ESL teachers are doing, and of the foresight of the system to know that that was where we needed to head. So I'll just go quickly over a summary and talk to you a little bit about our next steps. So if you look, you can see we're performing well above the state average in everything, and we continue to grow. Now, I'm not saying I'm happy with where we're at. There's lots of growth that we can make, but I am saying that we're on the right track. We are moving in the right direction, and we have plans to continue to see this growth. One thing I wanted to point out, too, that is important about the growth rate is that compares where the kid was the year before to where the kid is the year that they take the test. That's why the test is administered in second grade. Second grade sets the baseline. In order to meet growth target, they have to continue to improve every year. And they have to improve at least a year's progress in a year's time to meet that growth rate. So we have our students moving in the right direction. Is there more work for us to do? Absolutely. Is there work for us to do in middle school math? Absolutely. But I can say that recovery from COVID for us, our data's back as good as it was before. And so I think that considering all the demographic changes, all the growth of the district, we're in a position to fully recover our students' learning loss from that period of time. So our next steps, we're going to continue our math professional learning opportunities. We have implemented AMSTI math training for our middle school teachers. I feel like in middle school they have not had as much professional learning and pouring into as our elementaries have. Now with Mrs. Cortez on board, we are going to work on developing a math team from all of our schools across the district to try to dig in and better understand what's going on there with our secondary math. Ms. Cortez is already out in the buildings, working with the teacher teams, doing some coaching. And so I feel really confident we're going to see some improvement there. I think the biggest thing is trying to identify exactly what our teachers need in order to help their students. And so that's really what I've tasked her with right now, is to really get in and try to figure out what we need to do, and then we'll develop a further plan. We are providing professional development for our teachers. We implemented last year for the first time an intervention program specifically for math skills. We focused really heavily on literacy for a long time. The whole state of Alabama has. And because of that, all the professional development and all of the intervention supports have been really geared towards literacy. So last year, we've been waiting on the state to say, what are the approved intervention programs? And that's really kind of what took so long. And so we thought that they would put the list out 2 years ago. They didn't. So we were like, okay, let's just wait. We started hearing, because we have some people from our district who sit on the task force at the state level, that Do the Math was going to be one of the programs. So we went ahead and invested in that last year. We got a group of teachers trained to provide that intervention, and we're expanding that this year. All of our schools will be implementing specific math intervention from this point forward. So we've also purchased the resources for them to have that intervention program that is in schools, and there are more resources available when they need to do more groups. So we're staying ahead of that. We're really working with our schools to come up with a plan for students who are lacking those basic math skills to provide this intervention to get them at a better level so that when they get to the higher level maths, it's more accessible. The instructional leaders of our district, one of the things that I really wanted to do in my role was to build the capacity of our school leaders in leadership. And for years, and I've been doing this a long time, I think I'm in my 29th year. I'm old. But for years when I've gone to administrator meetings, the focus has been, let's look at the student data and let's talk about what we can do with the student data. The principal and the assistant principal of the building cannot go and teach all of the children. They have to be the leaders for the teachers. They have to be building the capacity of the teachers in their schools so that the teachers can improve student outcomes. So last year we started a plan to really look at what can our principals and assistant principals and coaches impact about student outcomes? And so all of our principal meetings and assistant principal meetings had this focus of making sure that they knew what high-quality instruction could look like in a classroom and that there was a feedback loop for teachers. So we've tasked them with regular walkthroughs, looking for things that they identified as the most impactful. And we've been collecting that data, and then they come back together, they talk about it, we come up with solutions if they've got teachers with weaknesses. That's a lot of where we're assigning my staff to go and push in and provide support based on the feedback that those administrators are bringing back in those meetings. We've gotten great feedback from the principals and assistant principals that that's been helpful to them because they actually do feel like it makes an impact. Obviously, with our ELA, we are implementing CKLA. We have Envision Math for our teachers. We know that Envision Math has some holes in it, and so that's where that supplemental instruction is going to have to come from, us figuring out what it is that's needed and plug in. The district is in a cohort for MCSS, which is multi-tiered support systems. The state has rolled that out. We have had tiered instruction, which means tier 1 is every kid gets it. Tier 2 is every kid gets it if they lack a skill of what's being taught right then. And tier 3 is if they're really behind and they need additional basic skill intervention. All of our schools have been tasked with having a plan for that in place and letting us know what resources they need to make that happen. In addition to that, we're bringing on board the social emotional component of that. What Ginger was talking about that standards-based report card having academic expectations for behavior, that is making sure that we are teaching our students what those expectations are and how to be a successful student. These are the things like turning your work in, being engaged in class, all of those kinds of behaviors, and that is what the cohort is going to be working through this year. So that's also work that's being done in the schools, and we're really expanding opportunities for all of our secondary schools to align more with that intervention process, because a lot of times what happens if students are behind when they get there, there hasn't really been a set plan for how to fill that bucket where the holes are. That's our goal now, is to make sure that they don't get further and further behind, but that we fill those holes while they're moving forward with their content. We are working now in our teams to work on those essential standards and the assessments that go along with that to ensure that our students in every school are getting a guaranteed and viable curriculum. The state has funded math coaches for all of our elementary schools. Our largest elementary schools, Hazel Green and Madison Crossroads, now have 2 math coaches. But all of our elementary schools have a math coach. This is also going to help us in the area of math to improve our teachers' skills. The goal of the math coach is to be coaching the teachers on how to improve their skills so that they can improve the student outcomes. And, you know, I'm very fortunate and excited to have Ms. Cortez on board as our new secondary math specialist. She's already bringing back information that's helpful to me. She's already working with teams to build capacity, and I really am excited to see this data next year. Just to go over quickly what the strategic plan is for instruction is a lot of what I just told you, but just our big rocks this year are going to be continuing the work of our professional learning communities, which is focused on teachers knowing their standards and being equipped to teach their standards. We are leading that ACLD-approved PLU for our principals and assistant principals on how they can impact instruction in their schools. And we are training new and aspiring administrators. Mrs. McCants has put together a program for teachers who long to be administrators, assistant principals who want to be principals, to build their capacity so that when it's time to interview for those positions, they're our best candidates. So, we are also focused on this guaranteed and viable curriculum. If every school doesn't offer every student the same high-quality education and instruction, the district is not going to achieve at its best. So our goal is to build that capacity in every school. And then we also have a focus on the college and workforce readiness. And here we are beginning to strengthen our alignment with course offerings and workforce needs. Mr. Counts has presented to you guys kind of his plan. This all plugs in there. And this is our first year for the ELO opportunity. And so we're really hoping to get some benefit from that for our kids getting a jump start on expanding those soft skills, but also expanding those workforce skills. And so that is all I have for you today. If you have any questions, you guys know you can reach out to me at any time. I will pull that demographic data for you by your schools and send it out to each of you. So, anything else?
Any other questions?
Very good presentation, Ms. Bass. When it comes to middle schools, you know, we still have this big drop in performance from elementary to middle school. I know what you're doing to address this is going to improve it, but there are some doubting Thomases out there that believe that we can't do it. And historically, my middle school, when I taught, always competed against Discovery. Mr. Trewick, who's former principal, will tell you that. Discovery had 56% proficiency. We can beat those people. We can come close.
I agree, and I think we're on our way. A lot of it is just building the capacity in our teachers and really identifying what the support is that they need. Because as much as from the district standpoint, we're not the boots on the ground. Our job is to support the boots on the ground and to get them all the resources that they need and all of the professional learning that they need so that they can meet the needs of their students. And again, the needs of their students are ever more diverse as we continue to grow. And so we've got to make sure we're staying ahead of what those differences will mean for them instructionally. So, anything else?
I just want to publicly thank you, Ms. Henshaw, and your team for the work that's going on with the standard base, being in that meeting, seeing all the discussions with the teachers, sitting there just observing all that stuff. And I told them before I left there that a lot of people don't see that stuff behind the scenes. I mean, people are sacrificing their normal jobs of running their schools, doing that stuff on top of that too. So I know it's still got a lot of work, finishing touches, a lot of stuff still to go, but I want to say publicly for those watching, those in the room, just thank y'all for what you're doing behind the scenes, a lot of that stuff. And it goes for every aspect, student services, operations. There's so many people that do stuff that we don't always see the back end of it. So I just want to publicly thank them from the board. I think I can speak for all of us as well. So thank you for what you do. So I was talking to somebody earlier. The greatest asset in any business is the employees, and I would put ours up against anybody in the state. So we appreciate what everybody does, not just in instruction, but district-wide. So thank y'all for that.
Thank you. I failed to mention all the work that Dr. Curry and Ms. Richburg, Bonnie, they're doing out in the schools as well. That's where Dr. Curry is today, is working with literacy teams. Bonnie is in our schools more than she's in her office because she's out there really digging in, working with those teacher teams, because that's where we're going to have an impact. We're not going to have an impact if we're just pushing around paper. We're going to have an impact if we're right there with the teachers, seeing what the needs are, learning what the students' needs are. And so I really appreciate the work that they're all doing too. So thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Bass, and thank your staff for all they're doing. One of the things that I want to make sure that we clarify is that, you know, our staff up here is supporting our boots on the ground. And when we're talking about that, we're talking about the people in those buildings, in those school buildings, and our teachers, and not only our teachers, but our support staff. They all have a hand in the academics of our students. And I want to thank all of our people that work in this district and what they do for the kids of this district every single day. So thank you. Mr. Perkins, Student Services update.
Good morning. How are you all today? Morning. It's good to see everyone. I won't make you all go back and do that good morning response again like I normally do. We're just going to go ahead and get into it without wasting a lot of time. I just kind of want to come today and give you all an update. Ms. Bass, talked about, all the things that we're doing in instruction, things of that nature, and they are really doing a fantastic job. We have a lot of students. We have a lot of growth. We have a lot of individuals who are moving into our area, and we know that just from the recent announcement that we're going to have a lot more individuals coming in. So we want to make sure that we're prepared, that we have exactly what we need, because our goal and our responsibility is to meet the needs of our students within our district. And I think that Madison County does a good job of trying to make sure that that actually takes place, because every child, every chance, every day, 100% of our students is our responsibility, and I'm going to say our responsibility by God, to make sure that we give our students what we need. And I know in my department we try to focus on, in our district as a whole, we have whole child meetings, making sure that we're covering everything that a child needs, that we're not missing anything, in terms of resources that we can provide for them. So what I want to talk about today, I want to give you an update, and this is a brief update, just with some enrollment data, some information, and some needs as it relates to enrollment, bringing kids and getting kids into school, getting them into classrooms, getting them into environments that they can learn, they can develop, they can grow, so that they can sit in front of the very best. And our district has a good reputation for taking care of kids and working in the direction of meeting their needs. Just want to kind of break down just a little bit of the parts of enrollment. Most of the time, we don't really realize, you don't really see behind this, behind the scenes to what you're actually working with when you're dealing with enrollment. But I've kind of broken it down into four parts, 4 phases of enrollment. Part 1 is the Power School SIS part of enrollment, and that's the uploading of documents, that's the monitoring of student information, that's getting in the data and the documents that allows enrollment to even begin the process of looking at it. And really, it could be broken down into 2 parts for that one piece, but I just lumped it all into one, because it all has to do, that first part has to do with the technology part of enrollment, dealing with Power School, dealing with student information systems. IT plays a pivotal role, a large role in that Power School SIS part, and we meet on a consistent basis to make sure that what we're doing is in line with the state standards and state guidelines, so that we can get our students in, so that we can meet the requirements of enrollment. Our requirements of enrollment is basically our board policy, but it's also with our court order that we have. The second part is school-based enrollment and registrars, and of course, that's with district support. Schools are consistently working through the process of enrollment. Our registrars are putting in countless hours, taking documentation, reviewing documentation to make sure they meet the standard of enrollment. And we'll talk a little bit more about the documentation that they have to review and look at on a consistent basis for all of our students in our district, close to 21,000 students in our district. The other part is the residency affidavits, and those are handled primarily at the central office level. And we'll go into that a little bit more. Residency affidavits are that which individual family comes in and they say that they're staying with another family. They have to be vetted. We have to look at it to make sure that actually takes place. And then the fourth part is our social workers, who are consistently, daily, out in the community, in homes, making sure that standards for enrollment are being met. Just some district information on enrollment. The total number of enrollments received this year is 21,287. That's what we've received this year. And eyes have been placed on all of those enrollments, on those documentations. And this is across 29 campuses. We have, and this is brand-new enrollments, new student enrollments, 3,690. That's a large number of new enrollments. That is a huge number. And the thing is this, that's the enrollment as it stands. As the year goes on, that number will increase in terms of new enrollments. But that's a lot of enrollments that have to be vetted and looked at. And our returning enrollment students, 17,597. So you're looking at large numbers in terms of working with students and getting them into our district. Just some information about our registrars. They do a huge job in our schools. But I want you to kind of look at the years of service for our registrars, because that's an area that we have some turnover in. We have 10 registrars, out of the 29 registrars that we have 10 that have 5+ years of service. We have 7 with less than 1 year of service. We have 5 with less than 2 years of service. We have 7 with less than 5 years of service. And all of our high schools registrars have less than 2 years. So when you look at getting those individuals in, there's a lot of training that has to take place. So IT works with every new registrar that comes into our district. Our contracted registrars go out and meet with them, and we bring them in so that they can be trained to be able to work through the systems, know what to look at, to look for, as we're trying to make sure that we get our students into our system in a timely fashion. Just want to talk about residency affidavits, give you some numbers on that. Our residency affidavits submitted as of September 3rd, 1,563. Those are residency affidavits. We've approved 1,000. We've denied 104, meaning that they have not met the requirements for enrollment. And then residency affidavits still pending verification. We have 350 still pending verification. Now, that 350 are in school. They're in school, but we are trying to go through and verify that their documentation meets the standards for enrollment. And then residency affidavits that have been rejected, or they're basically those residency affidavits that have been applied for, they have not met all the requirements. There's some more documentation, some other things that have to be looked at. We have 99 so far, and that's currently right now. Yes, sir.
Is that still pending verification? Are those the ones that y'all do the home visits on?
So all
Is that part of
residency.
the verification that you're?
Yes, so if they're pending, it's usually because of a lack of documentation or unsubstantiated documentation that they're trying to go through. And it could potentially mean a home visit. But every residency affidavit a home visit is warranted. We look at every last one of those. And if you can tell, that's a lot of verification.
On an average, how many home visits do y'all have to make?
A lot. I don't have
On one residency, I mean.
So it really depends. We have had a high number. We've gone up to, I know that we've had several, visits. If they're not there, we go back. We go back if we can't get in touch. I know there's been a couple of homes that we haven't been able to get in. We've made 7 visits. So, we try to make sure we get in a reasonable amount of time. So we've done, some of our social workers go back multiple times up to this particular point.
Mr. Viss, also, one of the things that the board needs to know is that at any point during that year, if we have concerns, we can go back and
Yes.
do another home visit to verify. Because there's a lot of times that things are, were identified and that, okay, there's not things in the home that really that justify it. So we'll come back at another date during the school year and verify. So those social workers are actually doing that as well during the
Yes.
school year. So multiple, so it's really hard to put a number because it just depends on the situation.
But 7 visits, that's a lot.
It
It's a lot
is.
of fuel, it's a lot of, expense on the.
It is.
And Mr. Perkins,
It is.
he's got a proposal that we're looking at. I don't know if it's in this particular.
It's not in this presentation, but
But yes,
their
we're having
guidelines.
to change that. And so we're looking at that and we'll be bringing that for y'all to look at here within the next few.
Matter of fact, that's the document that I shared with you guys.
I just saw it.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to digest it, I just
But,
saw it.
but you are correct. 7, and then you're talking about all those pending, we're using time where those social workers could be going to visit other homes, but they're having to go back because people aren't telling us the truth about it, and so that's what they're having to do.
And I don't wanna think that I'm all about sports. I mean, we all are, if you like Alabama football. But I had to say it, go ahead and get that off the table. But if the residency is not right and we allow that student, that
It
could
could,
mess up a whole.
it could vacate if we're talking about athletics, it could vacate an entire season.
And eligibility, and I mean. that's
Full
a whole-
eligibility, fine a school,
And I don't-
absolutely.
I do not wanna concentrate on the athletic part, but that is part of the scenario, so I mean,
Yeah. And even with the Alabama High School Athletic Association, just since you brought that up, they do require home visits for eligibility of those who say they've moved and they have a student who are making a bona fide move. We have to check that. We have to verify that. And usually our athletic director, administrator goes and does those with a social worker if he needs it, so. I wanted just to kind of give you an idea of the amount of documentation that they have to look at, that we have to go through in order to verify. So it's not something that you can just, you can pull it and say, hey, we have these documents, here you go, we just kind of move on with that. But you literally have to meet certain standards when it comes to documentation. Leases, deeds, mortgages, property taxes, hunts for utilities within 60 days, driver's license information. And, we've had instances where we've gotten documents that have been doctored or documents that are not, that's not correct. Documents that have been created. And so you have to vet all of those things. And so individuals have to put their eyes on every piece of documentation to make sure that it meets the requirements of registration. So if you look through birth certificates, passports, I mean, just different documentation to be able to verify that those things are actually meet the needs, meet the requirement of registration, of enrollment. These are some of the documents, along with the others that we look at for residency affidavits. So if you think about going through that documentation, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to go through it and look at that information. I put this in the, we put this in the presentation just so that you can kind of have some documentation as it relates to the breakdown for each school. I'm not going to go through it, but you can, take some time when you have to go through the new student submission. These are the stats per school, and then these are the returning student stats for schools. So just kind of looking at our district needs, I'll give you an example. Ms. Lewis handles enrollment as well as discipline. So as of this week, as of today, she's done 42 disciplinary hearings, 11 this week. So that's, so when you're looking at, that's a large amount of disciplinary hearings to try to cover as well as oversee enrollment. So when the summer hits or before the summer hits, our department switches modes. So everybody has specific jobs that they do. But in the summertime, in order to meet the needs of enrollment, everybody has to kind of put another hat on. And so everyone picks up a part of enrollment just to be able to get to the point where we can get it to a workable point to get students in. So one of the things that we're looking at, we're needing is someone who is specifically dedicated specifically to enrollment, period. One of the things that we do in the summertime, we contract social workers. We need to contract social workers for the entire summer, the way things are working out. And then we're looking at, there's some registrars who are retired for one reason or another, to be able to contract and bring them back. We actually have 2 right now that we contract that help out a lot. But at the same time, we still need, we need more to be able to cover the large number of students that we have, and as you know, the large number of students that we are going to get and are getting on a consistent basis. It is a full-time job for by itself. So, any questions?
I would like to sometimes see where our students are coming from. I know we've talked about it in the past, but is it the Madison City, is it the Huntsville City, is it outside?
We have.
What's the majority or?
So we have a large number that come in from Huntsville City. They're usually residency affidavits, but we have had a large influx also from other places. I can just off the top of my head, we've had several from Texas, Washington State, Oregon, Florida, Pennsylvania. We're getting them from all over now, but we do have a large number that come in from Huntsville City, and we've had some to transition from Madison City to Madison County.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes, sir.
The enrollment specialist for here at central office, I assume that would be a seasoned, vetted, respected registrar. Do you have kind of a salary range you're looking at?
Well, it would be based off of the salary schedule, whatever we have in the salary schedule. We'll match it to one of those salary schedule ratings. And it really needs to be someone who has a well-rounded amount of experience, with working with, registration, working with parents already. We need an individual who knows how to work with people and also knows the power school side, because that is a huge part of registration.
And it's not, as we're looking at this, and Mr. Perkins and I have talked about the funding issue and all, and so using some of the at-risk funds that we have, we believe that, we could probably cover this, so it's not an additional cost
Yeah.
to the district. It would be more of just repurposing, as Ms. Bass did with our math specialists, we moved some things around and we got it so that we could actually take care of the costs inside that department. So we've talked about that, but the position may even, qualify as an administrative position to have some authority to go over it. It's not necessarily just a registrar. That's a piece of it, and the training of the registrars and all. Mm-hmm. But there's gonna be a little bit more, and we'll have a job description for you to look at as to what the duties would be all entailed, so that you would see all that beforehand. But I wanted to let you know what we've talked about at this point is that we would be absorbing this position with the current funding as is, so it would be an additional.
Because registrar, they'll be the direct contact for the registrars. Mm-hmm.
What kind of time frame are we looking at of getting this before summer of next year, sooner than later?
Very, very soon, hopefully.
No, I agree. I'm full support of it.
Yeah.
Like I echoed to Miss Bass, the same way with you, Miss Lewitt, your team. I was talking to somebody the other day, and it was brought up of just, it's good in all of our jobs. We see the negative. Superintendent sees the negative a lot of times, but we get to see a lot of good as well. Mm-hmm. And sometimes in your department, y'all have nothing but negative, and y'all are the bad guys and that kind of stuff too. So I appreciate what you're doing there, and fully, support whatever we need to do for that. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
As Mr. Perkins said, his staff, once the children are here and school starts, they're back to what they were actually originally hired for. So all that time invested in residency affidavits, which his whole staff was focusing on during the summer, now they're doing their jobs. So now there's even a greater need, and there's less people to do it. So it's taking more time. And so, but yeah, we've been in conversation and talking about this for a little while now. And we'll be bringing forward to you a job description so y'all can see that.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Perkins. The last one, and this is just more of an informational item. Mr. Smith and I met, and we talked about when talking about travel expenses and the per diem rates, everything mileage-wise is set by the federal government. Well, we also have standards that, depending on what areas that you live in, there's different per diem rates that, they change as where you're actually attending, whether you're in Nashville, Atlanta, Birmingham, Mobile, Montgomery, you you basically are paying whatever those rates are. And as we all seen, the cost of food and going out has increased a lot. So one of the things that we wanted to do was look at what the average per diems were for the areas that we frequently go to. And so just wanted to put this on your radar, and we'll bring this back to y'all just to give you some thing. I sent you an email. Mr. Smith and I have met and talked about that. It just kind of outlines the costs. You know, basically, the reimbursement for travel expenses has already been taken care of because that's an automatic change as the new mileage is set by the state. We get that. But when you look at the cost per day, in Huntsville, it's $74 a day is what the cost is for per diem. $80 down in Birmingham, Gulf Shores is $74, Montgomery 68, and Mobile 74 a day. So that's what basically it costs them to eat during their conferences or wherever they're at in those larger cities. Well, our current rate is $45 a day. So they're putting out a lot of money. Now they can do receipts and turn the receipts, and it could be for a cost per cost, you know, exactly what the receipts are. However, a lot of times those things, depending on how long you're gone for, they get misplaced, they lose a receipt, and they can't claim that money. So they have to go back to whatever the daily rate is. And also, when you start talking about the federal programs and how much they have to go, it gets very difficult keeping up with all those receipts when you have massive amounts of people going to something.
Can we not scan those receipts in and email them?
You could, but like, just an example, our pre-K conference, they're all required to go, the teachers and the aides. So it's about 65 people who go, and then if they're there for a week, then you have 3 receipts a day for 65 people. The man hours of going through every single one of those and looking at everything they ordered and making sure that it meets requirements is very labor intensive. It puts a lot of work on our finance department and on our bookkeepers. And so when you do a flat rate per diem, you don't have to go through those receipts itemized. And a flat rate per diem ends up usually costing us less than what itemized receipts would cost. And so honestly, having done it for as many years as I've been in federal programs, the volume of what that looks like, it slows down people getting reimbursed for their travel. Because if you're taking 60 people, times 3 meals a day, times 5 days, and then you have to hand go through every single one of them, because if there's something on it that can't be paid for with federal dollars, for example, a beverage, then, you have to take that off, calculate the tax, then do the amount. It's very labor intensive. So it's not really about the scanned part of it, it's about the labor to go through itemized receipts.
And I'm not trying to split hairs, it's just, I know with our conference, we get breakfast with our conference when we go. And, you know, to me, that's a meal I didn't have to pay for, so.
So those provisions are in what we
Correct.
proposed, is if the conference provides any meals, they don't get the rate for those meals.
Okay.
So they would only get the dollar amount for the meals that are not provided.
So, Mr. Kibbe, when you and Mr. Smith met, you're both happy with the numbers?
Well, and that's why we wanted to just kind of put it out there to you right now. What we're kind of looking at is $25 a meal or $75 for the day. But as Ms. Bass said, if you're getting lunch provided with your conference, then the max would be $50 for that day. It wouldn't
Do we
be.
know that before they go to the conference?
Yeah, the agendas usually tell us, and we require that to be turned in. When they turn in their reimbursement is when they turn that into us. So the agenda would come in with their expense voucher form that they fill out, and you can see on there whether meals were provided, continental breakfast, that kind of thing. But that's part of the documentation that we require when they come back.
Then one of us board members need to bring back an agenda, because I've never turned one in for ours. So I think if we're gonna require everybody to do it, we need to do it also.
Yeah, I don't know how y'all's works, I just
I,
know
I fill out a form, I put numbers on there, and I get a check, so,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I just go by the daily average is what I've always done.
Okay, yeah, no, that's not what our folks have done.
And
Well, our agenda is listed on ASSB's
I know, I'm just
website,
saying,
so,
I just don't,
yeah.
I've never turned,
It should
in
be
all my years, I've never turned
easily
it in. Yeah.
obtained, though.
Well, ours, I mean, it's all posted. It's a public document that says that. But the thing is, that's where we're at. It's not, this is what we're just kind of talking about right now. If y'all think that that's too high or it needs to be lower, I mean, we can look at that. We just were trying to go with what we're talking about in the large cities in the state. Because our people go to Birmingham, Montgomery, Mobile, Gulf Shores, those are the places that they typically, or here locally. And so, it's pretty much right in that ballpark. So that's kind of where we're at. So it was just, this is to give you the information, and then, if you guys think that there's, we can have more dialogue about this at a later date, but just wanted to put on your radar that this is something we are looking at moving forward to. And like I said, Hunter and I have already sat down and looked at all this. But the mileage rate is automatic. We don't even have to do any of that. But changing the per diem, it was a change in policy, so we wanted to make sure you guys saw it.
I would like to get a number set, and then, because me personally, if I purchase an item somewhere and the attendant asks me if I want a receipt, it's an automatic no, because I don't want paper in my pocket. So, I think if we can come to an agreement on a number, I think that would work out best for the
Oh,
district.
I totally agree.
And we didn't want to go to like, dinner is 35 and lunch is, 15 and breakfast is, and we didn't want to get into that. So that's why we just did the 25 per meal, knowing that most of the time the dinners are what is mostly the expensive, a lot higher up. And so we just thought that with the $75 a day, it would be, and then if you have your, if breakfast is provided by your conference, then the max would be a $50 per day that you could get.
Flat rate per diem is a norm in most government services. And as long as you and Mr. Smith in agreement with the actual numbers, I'm fine with this.
Right. Correct. Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. And we can have that, make sure that they turn in a conference agenda that indicates, whether the meals are provided or not, so.
$15. I mean,
Right.
And truly, most of our travel is for things that are paid for with either grant funding or federal funding. And the volume of people that go, like pre-K conference, many of those teachers are first or second year teachers. They don't have the extra funds to go and out of their pocket pay for, and I don't think that we should expect them to. The program requires their attendance. It's part of their employment agreement. So, that's where I've seen the biggest hardship is on those pre-K teachers, really, with what we've been doing, is because they're mandated to do that travel. It has been, up until this year, always in Mobile. And then we've been giving them, $45 a day if the conference doesn't provide anything to them. If the conference provides a continental breakfast, they're getting $30. That you can't eat in Mobile for $30 at dinner. And so that is where, from my perspective, I've seen the greatest hardship. And it really won't be on district finances because that comes out of their grant. That travel comes out of their grant. And so, but that is the biggest group that we send anywhere ever, and we do it every year. We tried one year to let them do receipts. It was terrible, hard on my bookkeeper in federal programs, hard on the finance group, because, they have to double check what we give them. And then, it just unfurled to be a real big deal. And their conference is coming up this year. It's in Birmingham, but it's still a massive number of, how many fleet cars are we sending for that? 13 cars.
God bless you.
Big conference.
So this is kind of a good segue for something I talked to Mr. Smith about. It's along these lines, we have new teachers that have to travel, and a lot of times it's a plane ticket to where they're traveling to. And, if I have a new teacher on a new teacher's salary and they have to buy a plane ticket and their water heater goes out before they leave, that could be an issue for them. And I have talked to Mr. Smith about us looking at maybe a credit card per school to help with that kind of thing. So that plane ticket, if I've got to buy a plane ticket today, and I'm not gonna be reimbursed for 3 weeks,
We could look at that.
The whole picture.
Yeah.
That has been brought to my attention about new teachers having to pay for some of that stuff. I know it's not always a plane ticket, but
Right.
there is a time when there is, and so, and it could not be.
Yeah.
Right.
And another thing that we experienced with our young pre-K
The-
teachers is that they
As far as
literally
the
don't
pay,
have
you know,
credit
paying for
cards.
it.
And so, they're
There's
having
only
to
a
get
select
their
few that
parents
actually have
to
credit
loan
cards.
them a credit card to, and then we're basically reimbursing them so they can reimburse their parents. I mean, we've done it all, the challenge is with plane tickets specifically is if we do that, we have to make it a policy that they get a refundable ticket. Because, and that's gonna cost.
Well, that's something y'all have to work out. I wanna take the burden off of our teachers.
I hear you.
And it could be a teacher that's a veteran teacher that has that same issue.
That's
I mean,
correct.
a single teacher, I just don't wanna put a burden on our staff.
I agree 100%, and we've had a credit card in federal programs, where we'll book stuff, but like if somebody at the last minute can't go and we've paid for the ticket, the law says that we can't do that. And so we're having to then ask the teacher to pay us back for a trip that they're not taking. And so,
I would rather pay a little bit more for a refundable
that's what I'm
ticket.
saying, it's just because we've run into that
Well,
before.
I
So
mean,
as we build that out, then
that-
we've gotta make sure we do
That's
that.
pennies to me,
Yeah.
really, in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
so.
But we'll get, Hunter and I'll sit down and we'll talk, and we'll make sure that we're good with the numbers. And then we'll bring back to y'all, a per diem number and all, because, and then, we can revisit this for the next board meeting. As long as you guys are open-minded to looking at this, but it's hard on our people, and for them to go down there. And even, like you said, even if,
Well, the hotel room, I said plane ticket, that's what I was thinking, but hotel room's the same thing. I mean, you gotta pay $1,800, or whatever it is.
Right.
For the stay, I mean, that's a big deal. So, I just wanna take care of our staff, our employees, and make sure that they're not burdened by something that they have to do, required to do.
One thing we're already looking at is streamlining the reimbursement process. So do it electronically, have some type of routing system in place so that people get it in a timely fashion and sign off on it and get paid. So, we're doing a lot of that.
all right, we'll bring this back to y'all as well. So, that takes care of the informational items for,
All right.
President, do I request a 5-minute recess?
Yes, we are in recess for 5 minutes.
yeah.
That's fine. We've got a special session that we're gonna, so that concludes our agenda items for our work session. We're now gonna open our special session. Mr. Superintendent, item number 1.
Yes, sir. I recommend approval of the agenda dated September 5, 2025.
Motion by Mr. Jones and second by Mr. Vest for the approval of the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Sir, the next thing is we have a couple requests to address the board this morning.
Okay.
So, we have 2, and I think the first one is Brandon Price.
Mr. Price, are you in attendance? Okay. If you will, just make your way to the podium. You will have 3 minutes. Just wanted to remind you that this is, you will not have any discussion with the board. This is just your comments to the board, okay?
Understood.
All right. When you start, your time will begin.
Good morning, board members and district staff. Thank you for the opportunity for me to speak today. I'm here to respectfully express concern about the current walking policy for the Buckhorn school system and how it affects both families and their legal rights. First, I'd like to start off with the federal law that states it is from the Every Student Succeeds Act. It clearly states in regard to travel to and from school, nothing in this act shall authorize or be construed to prohibit a child from traveling to and from school on foot or by car, bus, or bike when the parent of the child has given permission. This is not vague language. It specifically protects the rights of parents to decide how their child travels to school. Even though there is a preemption of local or state law clause that is included, the clause intent is to allow local governments to make policies that work with the protection. This protection was important enough to be added into the federal law and should be respected. Additionally, under Alabama's Price Act, parents have a fundamental right to direct the upbringing, education, and care for their own children without burden from the state. This includes determining if their child is ready to walk to school or not. The district has referenced Alabama Code 1689 and Board Policy 4.01 as justification for their decision on this walking policy. However, these references are irrelevant to the current situation and do not provide the authority to override federal or state protections or impose blanket restrictions on student walkers. Nor do they allow the district to interfere with parental decision-making in the absence of a specific individualized safety threat, such as an active shooter situation. I don't think it's fair to lump kids walking to school with the same situation as an active shooter. Okay. Now, I completely agree that student safety should remain at the top of the priority list here. Everybody agrees that we want our kids to be safe. But we shouldn't be looking at the kids walking. We should be looking at the unmitigated traffic leading into the school parking lot. Instead of giving restrictions to the walkers, let's take a common sense approach here and look at what the actual problem is, and that's our traffic that's going in. Now, that can be mitigated by adding in speed bumps. If you put in a speed bump right before where the kids walk or after the kids are, you can mitigate the traffic that's going in, set the speed, and good news is nobody has to man it. Nobody has to be there for that. It will always be there. It will always be a deterrent. Other things you can do is you can put in a crosswalk. You can actually put in a high visible crosswalk to be painted down. Is that my time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. All right, our next request to address the board, Ms. Brenda Bryson. And you've already spoken to our board attorney
Yes.
about the restrictions? Okay.
My name is Brenda Bryson. I'm a real estate attorney here. Recently, I purchased a home on County Line Road. I've been in my house for 19 years in Mr. Bird's district there. And my son, who is 28 back here, knows Mr. Trawick, knows Mr. Perkins. Mr. Perkins was assistant principal, and he enrolled in Legacy. When Legacy was built, he was one of the first students. Recently, when I started adopting children and fostering children, it became an issue. Under Dr. Stiles, it was never an issue. These children were foster children. She understood the plight of these kids who needed to be enrolled in school. When we got under the new leadership of Ms. Rogers, it became an issue. I was questioned about how long I'm going to do this. Well, I'm going to do it until somebody else steps up and does it, because these children have a right to an education. Currently, the students that you see here, they're not in school. Our services is not working. No social workers knocked on our door this year, but we got a denied letter, and it didn't tell me why I was denied. A teacher from the Sparkman 9 called me and said, well, they're saying that the receipt is over the face of your utility bill. I took another receipt out there where the remittance that it pulls off by Huntsville Utility when you pay your bill is not on there. So they sent me to get another one. My house is deeded in my name. I've been in that house since 2006. 19 years I have been there and never had a problem. My children went to Legacy, Monrovia Middle, and before Legacy was built, they were at Endeavor, and they were the first students that went into Legacy. I'm disappointed in this board that is allowed. I know, Mr. Hubert, they brought it to you, and you were not provided all of the information. I have a deed, I have a utility, I have a driver's license, I meet all of the criteria, but yet I am being held back, and these students are denied an education, and they're foster children. This is a grave injustice. They've not been in school this year. Last year, I was required to take them over off of County Line Road to the house that I purchased over there, because I purchased an investment in property. I'm a real estate agent. People do it all the time. So they had to get up every morning at 5 a.m. And these are special education, special needs children that have to get up at 5 a.m. to catch a bus over off County Line Road. You can imagine how much sleep they have lost and how academically they were impeded upon their education for it. Well, this year, I'm having to homeschool them because I'm not going to do this to these children again this year. I hope you will help me in making sure my children go to school where I pay taxes and where I live. And that's what I'm asking you guys to do today. There also, and let me add that Miss Booth, who's a teacher there, she lives in my neighborhood. She runs by my house every morning. She runs 7 days a week because I run too. Mr. Perkins knows my children, and there are others. Mr. Treywick knows. My adult children went to school from this house. I never had a problem until I started fostering children.
Thank you, Ms. Bryson. All right, next agenda item, Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, it is the first public budget hearing. Mr. Smith.
Good morning. Thank you for attending our first public hearing for our fiscal year 2026 budget. Today I'll review key highlights including our student enrollment trends, revenue sources, expenses, and overall financial outlook. The goal is to provide transparency and ensure we're aligned with the needs of our schools and community. Sorry about that. So as one of the top 10 largest systems in the state, we're continuing to see steady growth. We operate across 30 schools, 15 elementary schools, 6 middle schools, 6 high schools, and 3 other programs, Career Tech, Virtual, and PACE. Here you can see our enrollment trend over the years. This is a 20-year trend, and this kind of reiterates our need for continued development in our facilities and our resources that we provide. So let's go ahead and dive into the budget here. Just real quick, I just want to give a quick overview of our financial structure of our budget. So we operate on a fiscal year running from October 1st to September 30. We manage funds across 5 categories: the general fund, which includes state and local funds; special revenue, which includes federal programs and local public school funds; debt service, which are set asides for debt repayment; capital projects. So these are large projects that that we set money aside for facility development, improvement, upgrades, stuff like that. We also have fiduciary funds. These are non-public local funds, such as booster clubs. And this structure ensures that every dollar is accounted for and aligned with the state and federal requirements. This year's proposed budget shows both growth and reallocation of resources. We prioritize maintaining strong instructional support while also investing in facilities and technology to keep pace with the enrollment. Our investment in facility upgrades and improvements is reflected in our capital outlay within the Capital Projects Fund. With that in mind, let's see where our money comes from. So, looking at revenue, the majority of it comes from state and local sources. We believe that our fiscal year 2026 estimates are more in line with what actuals year to date through fiscal year 2025. The rest of it is federal programs and other sources that make up the rest of the balance. So if you look at the year-over-year comparison, this highlights that while our overall revenue is stable, we must continue to diversify and protect funding sources to avoid over-reliance on any one single revenue stream. So, quick breakdown of our expenses. On the expense side, the majority of our budget is tied to payroll and benefits. As expected, in education, where our people are our most important resource. Overall, we're projecting a 3.5% increase year over year in operating expenses, primarily driven by continued elevation of core inflation. So that continues to be a factor, and we see it across all of our services, our utilities. There has been a significant impact to our expenses due to inflation. So if you look at, although our expenses are continuing to increase, expense categories as a percentage of the overall budget are relatively flat year over year. So although our expenses are increasing, how our funds are spread across different categories has stayed relatively flat. And if you notice, there is a slight dip in our percentage of payroll. And that dip is because that's probably the least sensitive area to inflation. We have our salary schedules, we have our steps. So that, doesn't fluctuate as much with core inflation. So, which does affect the other categories significantly. So if looking at our payroll expense, payroll is our largest single cost. Instruction and instructional support account for over 83% of our total payroll budget. Our year-over-year comparison shows modest increases primarily due to salary adjustments and necessary staffing to keep pace with enrollment. This reflects our ongoing commitment to competitive pay and ensuring we attract and retain top educators. In summary, the fiscal year 2026 budget is designed to be both responsible and forward-looking. It supports instructional quality, addresses enrollment growth, and maintains fiscal stability. We look forward to feedback during the public hearing and again at the second hearing on September 11th. Thank you. Are there any questions? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
That way, any questions, for the second year.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can email to us, that would be.
Yeah, gotcha. Anything else?
Our debt services, that's our
Yes.
bonds that we're paying?
Yes, that's repayment of our current debt.
Okay, do we have any bonds that are gonna mature in the near future?
We do have, I think, at least one coming up over the next 2 years. We've actually just hit the 10-year mark on another one of our bonds, and it's a 30-year bond, so at the 10-year mark, you're able to refinance. And I'm currently talking with investment bankers on how to, on what we could refinance for. And from what I'm hearing, we can get a whole percentage point knocked off of one of our bigger bonds. So.
Okay. So we'd go from 5% to 4%? You remember the numbers?
It's a mix because the rates are kind of spread across the board over 30 years, as you can imagine. But to finance after 10 years for another 20-year term, you're looking at around 4.5%. That's what I've been told.
Is there any way on the slide about the budget expenses for the payroll and benefits, and then the detailed breakdown, where you said our instruction support is over 83%? Is those two categories, and if you need to get back with me on that, it's perfectly fine as well. Are those two categories, district, local, support staff, is that all in there?
It's, yeah, everything, the entire system.
Is there any way, not for purposes of this, but just for the presentation of the board, is there any way we could get with payroll, not in a time frame to get this submitted, any of that stuff, but just
A more detailed analysis of payroll.
support staff, local,
Yeah,
instruction teachers?
absolutely.
Was just to see those percentages and stuff, please.
Yeah, we could put that together across all the cost centers, so you can look at that.
Any other questions from the board?
I want to tell you thank you. I know you've been here, what, 3 months now?
3 months today.
3 months today?
No, sorry, 3 months, 3 days ago.
Okay. Well, I know it's close. And I want to thank you for this breakdown. It looks good. It's going to help us digest it, but I would like an email too, but thank you.
I like to be as simple and, informative as possible, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. All right, administrative items. Item number 1, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, sir. I recommend approval of the revised 2026-2030 Madison County School System Capital Plan as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Vest, second by Mr. Jones for the approval of the revised 2026-2030 MCSS capital plan. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Superintendent, it's not revised, is it, because they're approving it for the first time, correct?
Well,
Or have they already approved one?
no, there was additions added to, that's why we're saying it's revised from what they saw at the first.
But they haven't voted on it yet?
Correct.
Okay, so I will not use the term revised. This is the adoption of the.
Of the current plan.
It's revised from the
Right.
plan they saw.
Correct.
I got you. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Is there any additional discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I recommend approval of the change order on the Sparkman Middle School softball field LED lighting project as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Vest for the recommendation for approval of the change order on the SMS softball field LED lighting project. Is there any discussion?
This comes in under budget, correct?
That's correct.
That's what we're voting for, acknowledging that it comes in under budget.
Mr. Zort, how much were we under budget on this project? Do you recall?
Change orders and deduction for 7,500.
7,500.
Good.
That'd be good for my test scores.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I recommend approval of the contracts for services as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Vest, second by Mr. Jones for the approval of the contracts for services. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It carries.
I recommend approval of the personal items as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Vest, second by Mr. Jones for the recommendation for approval of the personnel items. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I recommend approval of the team's contract as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Byrd for the recommendation for approval of the team's contracts. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It carries.
I recommend approval of the supplemental contracts as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Vest for the recommendation for approval of supplemental contracts. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It carries. All right, that concludes our agenda items for this evening, or for this morning. Our next scheduled board meeting is for Thursday, September 11th at 5:30 PM at Walnut Grove. So we'll be back on the road tour.
Y'all need directions?
I can find that one pretty well. So, all right, well, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Vest, second by Mr. Jones. We are adjourned.
Hey, 10:20. Not bad. 10:20 with old president.
Hey, that lady's house she's referring to on County Line Road, that's not in my neighborhood. She's talking about something in the